Ooh, what's up guys, Nanjiroh here, and welcome to week 6 of Ask Nanjiroh. So, you probably already know this, but I'm quite literally recording week 6 directly right after week 5, and so I haven't seen any potential questions that I may have gotten since since both of these videos since both of these videos went live. However, obviously, whatever questions I've received in the last 10 days or so after this recording, I'll go ahead and talk about those in week 7. So I'm just gonna go right back into it. Kiri also had these questions of basing off a previous week question, reevaluate the card to player based on new expansion. So if you didn't know, I believe in week 3 or so, or maybe it was week 4, I went ahead and I talked about people's I guess spirit card or whatever. I'll be talking about what a spirit card is a little bit later, but I do have the answer to that question as and I'm just gonna go ahead and tie that into a different question that Gokpa actually asked me. He also asked, what would you do when there are no more questions for you to talk about on Ask Nanjiroh? So I'm pretty sure that there are always going to be questions for you guys to ask me, just because a lot of you guys have a lot of questions for me, and the majority of them I usually do try to answer right then and there when you guys ask me the question, just because if it's an easy enough question for me to answer, I'll go ahead and answer it. However, in the event that you guys have a longer question, then naturally it just ends up here on Ask Nanjiroh. However, I think as the game progresses, that there are always gonna be things that you guys need / want to ask me, and again, if you guys don't ask me, that usually just bug the shit out of you guys until you guys come up with a question for me or something like that. but yeah, I do believe that Ask Nanjiroh is a long-term project. However, additionally, I do have other long-term projects I want to do. I do want to occasionally do some card review videos. I also have my intro to building series, in which I go ahead and I talk about some of the fundamentals in card games that you need to understand, such as things like card advantage and whatnot. And as this channel progresses, I'll of course have more and more videos that I go ahead and do, and they can either be one and done sort of videos, or they can be longer segments. So he also asks, how much tilt can how much tilt can a tilting windmill tilt if a tilting windmill could tilt? Alright, so for those who don't know, when tilting windmills got released, a lot of people are like, "Oh, you should play this card, Nanjiroh. It's really cool." But I actually don't like playing the card at all. I actually don't like playing the card at all, because the card is super all in, and 9 times out of 10, Polyroar is just better. Just because the only neutrals that you really care about giving Storm to would be Israfil. However, you know what else has comparable damage? An evolved Genesis Dragon. Zeus, who already has Storm, Bahamut, who physically cannot get the Storm from the thing, just because he's gonna blow up the windmills when it comes into play, and then stuff like Hamsa. However, I don't like that deck that much. However, he knows I don't like the deck that much, so he's asking this to tell me. On top of that, I also have a negative win rate overall from this expansion from facing that deck, because I don't know what it is, but I guess the deck always has anti-Bahamut shields versus me, because I just never draw my Bahamut, and then they just draw all their combo pieces, then they force me to play a creature, then they kill me after I play that creature. Just because the way the deck works is you go ahead and you play Uriel to search out your windmills. You wait for a low tempo turn from your opponent. You play the windmills. If your opponent plays any creature whatsoever, you go ahead and you slam. You go ahead and you slam Hamsa plus Earthshock Ogre, and then you do a billion damage to them in one turn. I believe right now my current record is taking 25 damage from that, because he went Earthshock Ogre, or sorry, he went Earthshock Ogre double Hamsa, and then the Earthshock Ogre did not have an Evo. Yeah, because I believe he homestead my Ouroboros. But yeah, so to actually answer the question, it's pretty tilting indeed. Sakia asked which 5 cards will be nerfed. So I actually do have a video segment that I should be recording probably tomorrow to talk about this, just because it's part of a bigger thing as a whole, because I can't actually just talk about like what 5 cards will be nerfed, because there are like a few things that I do have my eye on, and I'll just make it a what Nanjiroh things might get nerfed but might not actually get nerfed, or just cards to be on the lookout for. His second question is it good to not nerf legendaries? Now, I'm not gonna say it's good to not nerf legendaries. What I will say is that, like, I think it's not good to not, like, or I think it's incorrect to not touch like certain problem cards. However, when you look at legendary cards, like, naturally, a lot of them are going to be pretty unique, and they're going to have a relatively high power level. However, the issue becomes when the power level might be too high, and you might have to scale it back in terms of what the card does. Now, one of the legendaries which I think that might get nerfed, because Side Games did say that on the chopping block was some legendaries this nerf cycle, is probably Alice and maybe Spawn of the Abyss. There could also be, I think there's like one other legendary that I thought that might get nerfed. That might be Wizardess of Oz, but yeah. So again, whether or not to nerf a legendary, it basically kind of comes down to what was the overall power level of that legendary. Now, I know, like during Tempest of the Gods, a lot of people were like, "Oh, Sybil needs to be nerfed. Sybil needs to be fucking gutted into the ground. It cannot heal. It cannot ramp. It cannot heal and ramp at the same time," or something like that. And to me, not even as a Dragon main, but just as a player, Sybil to me was fine, because as one of the things that people don't really talk about, but as a trend that I've been noticing in these last few sets, is that right now, one of the things that Side Games does is that they put a lot of power level at the 5 mana slot. Like, a quick cursory glance at 5 mana, and you have Albert, you have Council of Card Knights, you have Sybil, you have Scarlet Sabrer, you have Fortune Hunter Fina, you have Gruff Mountaineer Captain, or something, or whatever his name is. And these are, you also have Hector as well. You also have Hector, I think you have Felice, and they have Illusionist. Like, these are all very, very, very high in power level cards, and I think that, so for example, so I think that like Sybil as a whole is fine in a sense, just because like other classes have other problematic cards at 5, and well, I say problematic, but by what I really mean is that like they're like a good problematic, and that they're tricky to deal with, and that as a result, because they're tricky to deal with, they thus provide you a sense of interaction. Rather, they provide you a sense of forced interaction, because there are like some cards they would like to maybe ignore. However, when you see any of those above mentioned cards come down, you have to deal with them in that turn, and I think that's fine. Is it good to have bad cards in a card game? Yes, it's good to have bad cards in a card game, because there are many different types of players in a card game, and people think about cards in many different ways. You have people who play a lot of constructed, and they're fairly competitive. You have people who are like tournament players, or maybe pro players who only care about constructed. Then you also have people who care about draft format, and then you have people who are casual players. And then going even further, you have people who are casual players who are just like straight up just like pure casual, like, because there's actually like a difference between and how casual you are as a player. Like, you could be someone like me who's a fairly casual player. However, I make sure to stay up to date on all the comings and goings of meta trends and whatnot. Although I don't play in tournaments, just because I have I have some sleep related issues. but then you also have people who like my one friend who I'm not actually gonna mention him, but he actually uses bad cards. Well, I say he uses bad cards, but I mean specifically he uses one particular bad card, and what I mean by that is that you have people who they want to play bad cards because, like, to them it provides a challenge. It's one of those things that, like, people kind of like look down on, or it's one of those people look down on this card, so I need to make it work, and if I make it work, then yeah, I can feel accomplished. I myself am like this to an extent. You won't see me fucking play around with things like Dragon Song Flute. However, a lot of the decks and homebrews that you see me make are usually stuff that no one is talking about, and I'm usually using cards that people either don't think are good or just haven't like played around with. So I do think that's good to have bad cards in a card game, just because, like, you want to appeal to as many different people as possible when you're trying to have a healthy, like, game, and that it's not just that has to be constructed healthy. They have to have like a diverse player base, just because both casual players and competitive players are still, they're still your customers. You have to care about them. Or in general, is it good to have underused / weaker mechanics in a card game? Yes, it's fine to have underused or weaker mechanics. Usually, most times when you don't see like a mechanic being played that often, it's usually just that's going to be underused. Sometimes it can be weak. However, sometimes not all of the pieces for a mechanic or just a deck in general are going to be there all at once. A lot of it comes in pieces because that's one of those, I guess, like deck builder puzzles that builders have to like deal with or whatever. A good example of this would be Alana. So Alana kind of like fell out of favor for a while. However, with the release of Tenko, the Alana deck is like back in full force, and it's pretty good. And like building with it again after like 3 expansions is it's a bit of a challenge, but it's a good challenge. What sleeves do you want for next month? To be honest, I had like quite a few different sleeves I wanted. However, the big ones I want, which I know I'm not gonna get physically because it's like impossible for me to get them at this point in time, would be Polychronic Roar sleeve, a sleeve for Worm Goddess, but most likely the realistic sleeves that I'm expecting to get for next month would be the sleeve for Imperial Dragoon when we get him as a leader, the sleeve for Daria, if Nep wins, I'll go ahead and I'll get her sleeve as well, and then Scarlet Sabrura, and then Emeralda. All of these cards I really think are really cool. So I'm really excited to get sleeves for them if we do in fact get sleeves. Make a new Dragon pre-built deck with a new leader and newbie friendly cards. So to me, usually a lot of people say this universally about any strategy based card games, but generally, if you're trying to teach a new player how to play the game, you usually give them an aggro deck, just because while there are sometimes difficult games in aggro, it's not quite as difficult as things in control. What I mean by that is that, like, there are certain values that only playing aggro can teach you, such as when to trade, when not to trade, and how to correctly use your burst damage, or how to go ahead and instead of like multi-turn lethal. So I'd probably make it aggro. I'd probably make so naturally it'd be like storm oriented. I'd probably make the cover legendary Worm Goddess, because we're already getting Sybil. Yes, so I'd probably make it Worm Goddess, or additionally I'd also make it Ouroboros as well, because Ouroboros is also one of my favorite cards. It'd probably be one of those two. As for the actual cards that would like be in the deck, I guess I'll go ahead and like leave that in the description below. just because it's a fairly long list, and I don't actually remember all of the okay but not quite good dragon cards off the top of my head. The bonus soccer question is, for an American, you seem to know a lot about soccer. So, so a really fun fact, I actually like soccer a lot. I think it's like actually one of my favorite sports. But what he means by this is that recently, Sci Games announced that they're going to be sponsoring this European soccer team called Juve. Juve. All right, so a lot of people playing Shadowverse, they didn't actually know what the point of the sponsorship was. However, Juve is almost a household name in Europe for people for any like sports fans or anything like that, because they've won four very, very large scale tournaments consecutively. Now it's already difficult enough to win a single tournament alone, but to win several in succession, that's pretty insane. And so this is really good because they're like a well-known company, or sorry, they're like a well-known like soccer club, and then Side Games is a well-known like company. So naturally it'll be good exposure for both parties. On top of that, for us the players, if Juve wins any other like major tournaments, we're gonna get free packs for that, and I'll be super excited for that because free packs are love, free packs are life. Alright, so now Gokba asks, which cards would you like to buff? To be honest, I'm pretty neutral on buffing slash nerfing cards. Like, it doesn't really matter to me in the slightest. However, one buff that I did hear from Gumi, which actually, as I was thinking about it, I liked a lot, was to buff Forte's HP by 1 point. At 3 HP, Forte is very, very easy to kill. At 4 HP, she becomes a lot harder to kill, and thus gets some repetitive damage, and would thus be a lot better. Like, the nerf would be small. The buff would be small, but significant. Right. And then the next question is: let's imagine that one of the future Shadowverse patches include card gifting between players. Which cards would you like to send as a gift from me, Sammy, Saria, Luna, Saki, Agumi, Sizz, Kent, Kiri, MST, and you may also include other people that you like that aren't on this list, but someone that you like. You can only send one card per person, right? So this ties into the cards as players part, because to me, cards as a whole are alright. So every card has a soul, and that I mean that like every card has people who like the card, people who hate the card, but we're going to talk about the people who like the card. Now for people who like the card, some people in some cases, you might like the card so much that they can like physically identify with it in some way, shape, or form. Now for me personally, one of the cards that I identify with is both Imperial Dragoon as well as Polyphonic Roar, just because those two cards are sort of like claim to fame cards for me, and they're one of those, and usually for the most part, you're gonna see one or the other in every single deck I play. Or sorry, you're gonna see one or the other in every single dragon deck I play. Now, I'm just gonna get on the list again. As you see here, because I'm too lazy to remember 20 different cards and 20 different reasons, I decided to just go ahead and just like list it right down here for all of you guys to see. So for Saria, his card would be the Swordsman of White Ridge, or White Ridge Swordsman. Sorry about that. And the reason why is because initially I wanted to give him Cinderella, just because sometimes sorry gets like kind of like somewhat high strung in a pretty funny way. However, I ultimately decided for White Ridge because White Ridge has a pretty cool pose. I don't actually know how Saria feels about the card. However, the card is very, very good, and it's like a lone swordsman who's like defending his company and whatnot, and that just seems really cool to me. For Sami Zayn for life, his card is Gruff Mountaineer. Now, again, I didn't actually mention this shit yet, but all these cards would be animated, and as well as all these cards would be cards that I see these people as. So Sami Zayn, his card is Gruff Mountaineer. The reason why his card is Gruff Mountaineer is because Gruff Mountaineer, it kind of looks to me like one of those guys who with the smile and that sheen that he has, the sort of like cliche like smile, and then the brightness of their teeth kind of like shines off on you. The card looks like a card that might that might just as easily hit you with a suplex. And I know Sami Zayn for life likes wrestling a lot, so that's this card. For Luna, her card is Odell Black Swan. The reason why your card is Odell Black Swan is because like during reveal season, when we saw Odell Black Swan, Luna just straight up fell in love with that card, and I heard her talk about the card for like days, and that's pretty funny because like I like seeing and hearing people when they get excited about things, just because like when you get excited, I get excited, and that's like, it creates good vibes. For Sakya, his question is going to be Caterpillar of Riddles. Now, it's Caterpillar of Riddles because you might not know this, but when I watch anime with my friends, I have a tendency to fall asleep because, again, I have like sleep related issues, and well, I more or less have like insomnia or whatever, and and as a result, because it's like a trend for me to like fall asleep, because like when we watch these animes, we like straight just like binge watch them. We watch like 13 to 26 episodes all at once, and usually I fall asleep somewhere between right after episode 7 or sometime during like episode 8, and as a result, he started this meme that's now known as the Nanjiroh check to check whether or not I'm still asleep, because sometimes I'll either be asleep, or sometimes I'll also get like super engrossed in the video, and I'll just get like turn my phone sideways. I'll just get like read the subtitles and like no longer read chat. For Gumi, her card is going to be Carabosa. Now her card is going to be Carabosa because it's going to be Carabosa for 2 reasons. One, I wanted to pick a big boobs character for her. 2, if I'm not mistaken, Carabosa is actually one of the cards that she herself actually really wanted as an icon, and I think she wanted to play around with the deck as well. For Gakpa, alright, so for Gakpa, this one was actually kind of difficult because there were like a few different cards that I wanted to give him. However, I ultimately decided on Master Mage Levi because Master Mage Levi, his entry line is super memey. He's like, the name's Levi. And Gakpa to me is, well, he's a rune main, so obviously it was going to be a rune card, but he's also one of the biggest memers that I know. He's a memer in a good way, because to me, like, bad memers are the people who like, they never stop meming, and then like good memers are the people who like, they meme, and when they do, it's kind of like sprinkled in a little bit, like, like spice, and then every time they do it, it's like funny. For Sisney, his card is going to be Elf Twins Assault. The reason why his card is going to be Elf Twins Assault is for 2 reasons. Sisney, all right. So as you may have seen in a previous video, I had a bunch of scrim games with him when he was practicing the deck, and even though I was able to establish a 6/6 Shadow Reaper himself by going like full ham on a combo, and mind you, this is post nerf, by going full ham on a combo, he then blew it up with an Elf Twins Assault and Stealth, and so now anytime I see an Elf Twins Assault, I'm just like, God, he's doing this to me, isn't he? Like, and fun fact, I actually haven't played him in a while. Like, I think this was like 3 weeks ago, but yeah, watching it happen, it traumatized me so much. That just like, every time it happens, I just like immediately think of him. For Kent, his card is going to be Dragon Summoner / Golden Lion of Goldania. So I picked these two cards, one because the Dragon Summoner, one thing that people were talking about when we first got the card was that, oh, well, this card could fit into Aggro Dragon and just use it to search out your fortes, and that's pretty cool. And I know that Kent plays a lot of Aggro Dragon on the side, and then his second card would be Golden Lion of Goldania. Now the reason why his second card would be that is because he also plays a lot of Haven, and Golden Lion is a pretty cool card to me just because like it's essentially usually a better Skullfane, and that's pretty cool. It also has a fantastic entry line, a fantastic entry animation. For Kiri, his card is going to be Ephemera Angelic Slacker. Now, his card is going to be that for I think 3 or 4 reasons. Now, the first reason is because I believe somewhere in between week 2 and week 3, somewhere in between like week 2 to week 4, I got him to binge watch Gabriel Dropout, and he absolutely loves the show. And his favorite character is like Gabriel as well as like Rafi. And and Angelic Slacker is also a card that he's been playing around with recently in a lot of his shadow decks, because like Angelic Slacker is a pretty underrated card, and it works out amazingly well with tokens. So yeah, that's gonna be his card. For MST and PMT, his card, because he's a memer, is going to be Old Man Old Woman. Now, Old Man Old Woman is one of the funniest cards in the game, just because that card name is so ridiculous. Old Man Old Woman, like. But it's also a Swordcraft card, and while this was kind of difficult for me to pick, just because I actually have a lot of Swordcraft mains on this thing. I have like at least like 4 on this thing, so that was like kind of difficult to pick 5 choices from like 13 cards and not have any duplicates. For Prep Coin, his card is going to be Fairy Driver. Now, his card is going to be Fairy Driver because that was actually one of the biggest cards that he was excited for this set, which I know seems kind of weird, but Fairy Driver enables its own turn 6 or something like that OTK from like out of nowhere. And I know like at the start of the expansion he was playing around with that a lot. I don't know exactly what came with the deck, but I do know that that's one of the things they got excited for. So naturally, if you get excited for something and you're a friend of mine, I'm going to remember that you got excited for it. For Threnody 44, his card is going to be Hero of Antiquity. So his card is going to be Hero of Antiquity for again a few reasons. The reason why it's Hero of Antiquity is because, one, when people said Hero of Antiquity was bad, he was one of the few not bad. So the Hero of Antiquity was, so the Hero of Antiquity was bad, and that Fangblade was better. He was one of the few people to agree with me, and also be a sword main to agree with me that, oh, Hero of Antiquity is actually really, really good, and you guys are just underestimating it. The other reason is because he actually wanted to open up a Hero of Antiquity icon for so fucking long, and only just recently opened it up, I think 2 or 3 days ago. So congrats to him. For Room Noxley, his card is going to be Young Ogre Hunter Momo. So the reason why his Young Ogre Hunter Momo, why his card is Young Ogre Hunter Momo, is because Alright, so recently I started playing Eternal, which is another card game, and he also started it, and he was also like asking me for advice, and I had to resist the urge to be like in time, young Padawan or something like that, because hashtag Star Wars jokes. So that's why that's his card. For Takei, his card is going to be Roland, and then his other card was going to be Axe Destroyer. So the reason why those are his cards is because I know he likes to play a lot of control decks. And for Axe Destroyer, I recently opened up an Axe Destroyer, and Axe Destroyer is a really nice card because Sword didn't have Amulet Destruction. The only Amulet Destruction they had was Odin, but a lot of times you didn't always play Odin just because Odin is kind of a tempo loss. However, with Axe Destroyer, while yes you need an Evo, it has higher stats overall and is better as a vanilla. For Kay Sherry, her cards are going to be Gabriel and then Phantom Cat. So the reason why her first card is Gabriel is because she's also a very big Gabriel fan, and she loves the card so much that at one point she actually had it in her mid-range shadow deck, and I think I've actually clipped a few times of her killing people with it. And then her other card is going to be Phantom Cat, because like I recently converted her to aggro cat blood, and again she loves the deck. She's been climbing a lot with it, and she also gets like super excited whenever she gets like Phantom Cat for 4. And so yeah, if you get excited, I'm gonna remember that. And then yeah, so here we are. For Azazika, his card is going to be Golem Assault. The other card that his card could be would be Wizardess of Oz. The reason why I picked these 2 cards is because I think he plays Rune. I don't actually know what class he means. I think he said he made Shadow, but he also plays a lot of Rune now too. So the Golem Assault is because in a previous video he did actually mention to me that he had like trouble keeping cards in his hand. And Golem Assault is nice because Golem Assault helps keep cards in your hand. Additionally, the Oz would again be for the same reason. You get to keep cards in your hand. For Time, right? So Time is actually the person I mentioned in week 5, I believe, that actually uses a Deep Wood Anomaly deck and did manage to make it to A0. So shout outs to him. And so that's why I chose Deep Wood Anomaly as this card, just because Deep Wood Anomaly is a card that a lot of people wrote off as a meme. They don't really like the card at all. However, he feels differently. He uses the card. He's having success with the card. So shout out to him. For Jordan, aka Jordality, his card is going to be Snow White. The reason why his card is going to be Snow White is because when we first saw the card, he as a Haven main, he was like, "No, that card is trash." Like, yeah. so the reason why Snow White is going to be his card is because I'm kind of like low key like rubbing this in his face, because Snow White is actually one of the best 2-drops in the game, and an overall a very good legendary. And then for Sleeted Rain, his card is going to be Tove, and quite literally it's Tove because he came up with this saying called Tove and the Boys. Like, I was watching a stream last week, and when I got the aggro cat deck, and legitimately whenever he would mulligan, he was just like, okay, well, I'm just gonna toss back all of these so that way I can get Tove and the Boys and whatnot. And he said it so much that like it sounded so catchy, it just kind of stuck with me. So yeah, but wow, I was actually able to finish all of these questions. This took me a little bit longer than I would have liked, and I know I kind of rushed it a little bit, but I do have somewhere that I need to be soon. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. This is week 6 of Last Nanjiroh. If you have any questions, again, you guys can ask me literally anything, and just leave it in the comments below. Go ahead and ask me on Twitter. Go ahead and ask me on Discord. Wherever you manage to catch me, just go ahead and find me, ask me, and I'll go ahead and cover it. I'll go ahead and cover it in either that week or the week after. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys